I've been running 33-inch tires on my Jeep X-Trail for the past year, and people keep telling me I'm gonna tear my frame right at the steering box. So today I'm gonna be rectifying that. I'm gonna design and make my own steering box brace, and I'm gonna have the files in the description of this video. You can either print out a template, trace it on some metal, cut it out and weld it in, or you can get it cut by a laser cutting company like Cut Send or Xometry or one of the other ones and have it mailed to your door, and it should just be a welding part. So I'm gonna take you along with the design process, and then we're gonna get it welded into the Jeep today, and then you can follow along with the files in the description. So the first thing I'm gonna do is obviously take the steering box itself off. When I do this, I'm gonna make sure to not turn the tires or try and manipulate the steering at all in any way while the steering box is taken off, because if I do that, it's gonna make it a lot harder to put the steering box back on. So here you can see the OEM steering box brace. This is just a piece of die-cast aluminum, and it doesn't really give any support to the frame rail. All it does is kind of space the steering box off of the frame rail. So we're gonna make a plate that sits behind this. This is gonna get thrown away. We're gonna have little spacers that sit where these holes are, and then you'll just be able to weld that whole assembly right behind the steering box here. I think I got a pretty good design kind of mocked up. So we're gonna go ahead and get this put into a computer and get an actual drawing made up. And then with that drawing, I can make a paper template.
Three weeks later.
All right, so I'm gonna start working on my version 2 of this steering box brace. I made this one, which I'm not gonna show you. I didn't really like it. It didn't fit how I wanted it to, and it's kind of clunky. And the way that I did the shoulder spots didn't work very well. I used like washers and nuts, and then that left kind of like some gaps in here that I think are gonna hold on to moisture. And it looks like, you know, a little volcano or something. So back to the drawing board a little bit. I went and I picked up some thicker steel. This is 1/8 inch plate steel. I got it for $8 at metal supermarkets. And then I was thinking about the spacer, and I found this 1-inch steel bar. This was like another $8 or so. I'm gonna center punch it and then drill a 1/2 inch hole in this, and then I'll just cut little, 1-inch or so chunks off of this, and then weld that on. And that will be a much nicer spacer. I did look for spacers online. I did find them on McMaster Car, and they're about $11 each. This is my redesigned drawing. I have these marks, and so I've already checked. These are 1 inches between every two, or each marker is a 1/2 inch space. So that's just a quick way to check that what you got is dimensionally accurate to how it was designed. And if you can measure across all your markers and you get 10 inches or whatever between here and there, whatever you get, if it looks like across the entire length it matches a set distance on a tape measure, then that means your drawing is proportional, it's scaled. If not, you're gonna have to print one out, maybe squish it somehow until it looks right for you. I'm gonna go ahead and cut this out. I'm gonna use just a basic pair of scissors, and then I'll be able to take this, put it on this, mark around, and then cut out my actual brace piece from this piece of metal. And then I'm gonna go ahead and cut some slices from this, put holes in them, so you can see the whole process. All right, so I've gone ahead and got my 3 spacers made. Some of them didn't turn out as nice as others. These ones are like not totally centered. I'm gonna put them in the spots that are really close to the edge. So I have some that are like a little bit better gaps here. I don't have an overhang. I had to grind the one side flat so it sits without really rocking too much. I'm gonna get these kind of welded on here. All right, so I've got my spacers kind of all welded up here. My spacers put this whole thickness at around 21 millimeters. What I think I'm gonna do is get a cutting disc and then just take like a kerf cut, like a little slice off the top, and then I'll remeasure, and then I can flatten the rest with a cutting disc like this. Alright, so I'm pretty much through grinding these. What I'm doing is I'm measuring as many spots as I can using the calipers. Anything that's in tolerance or close where I want it, I'm leaving. And then anything that's a little bit proud, I'm just running a Sharpie over top. I'm gonna grab my little ink grinder, just kind of go over these just until I'm a little bit past the Sharpie marks. So that's like pretty darn close. I mean, maybe right here I could trim a little more. I'll do just a little. All right, so I got this all ground up. Now this last part, I had covered the whole thing with weld-through primer. I don't need to paint the front, but I am gonna paint the back because this is gonna be touching right up against the surface of my frame rail. Now for this, I'm using Seymour PBE weld-through primer. I've used this stuff before. Paint looks pretty good. Happy with it. I got the Jeep in here. What I'm gonna do now is take this electrical fan out, and then I'll go ahead and unbolt the steering box again from down here. It's not perfect, but it's pretty darn close. I'm gonna just kind of set it in and put the bolts through it, see how that all looks. So you can see that's sitting pretty well. One thing I'd like to try to do is see if I can grind any more of the paint off. So I'm gonna try and mark all around this brace I have now. All right, I've encountered a kind of minor issue. If you look closely down here, right around here, you'll see there's this little divot. And this is, an indent in the frame rail that goes in, something like 1/4 inch. My little brace here, if I were to just run it and weld it, I would have this big pocket behind here, which one could trap water and then corrode from the inside out, and two, would not really be doing much bracing, right? Because there wouldn't be any metal kind of contacting it. So what I think I'm gonna do is make some cuts and clear this area so that it actually sits around that little pocket. I've made an important discovery, which is that the actual steering box actually sits in that little pocket. So it is totally crucial that that little pocket is open so that the steering box can sit where it needs to. All right, I would say I'm ready to weld. I got my thing cut, got my little clearance hole. I was having a little gap at the top here. I bent this little edge just a little bit to get it to fit a little better. See, there's not much of a gap up here, and it sits pretty well. So now I am going to tighten the steering box back on and then just kind of tack weld it wherever I can reach while this is torqued down so that this whole brace is actually clamped pretty well up against the frame rail. So I don't have anywhere to clamp to, so I took the piece that I cut out and I just kind of shoved it down in there so it's touching bare metal. I did grind some of this paint off. Obviously it's not perfect. I tried. I don't have the right stuff that fits in there to grind it. I think I can get away with it for what I'm doing here. We're gonna go ahead and take the steering box off again, and then we'll be able to weld it in properly. First time I've welded sand before. So here's what I got. I was able to honestly get a pretty good weld around just about everything. The bottom is not as good. The flux core definitely helped here. I was able to literally just burn through whatever paint. I think I welded through sand. I would hold the torch like this, and then I would press it with my thumb here, and kind of like, that. On the front portion, I managed to kind of reach my arm up over, and then just do it one-handed. All right, I think we're done. I guess now I'm gonna go ahead and put the steering box back on, take it for a test drive, see how it works. You might notice I never drilled the plug welds. I decided I didn't care that much, and I'm pretty happy with how it looks as it is. Lift up right on this link here, the pitman arm it's called. My goal is to get one bolt started, and that'll help locate everything else. I'm starting right up here because it's easy to see, and I'm trying to manipulate this to have as little of a gap there as possible. Feels like it's catching. Okay, so I'm gonna go to the bottom. If you look in here, that looks like it lines up really well. Okay. Last bolt. That seems like it's threading great. That looks nice and flush. I don't see any gap there. That looks great. I can't see this one as much, but I think it's okay. It does seem a little bit nicer, a little tighter. All right, so that is the Mountain West Off-Road steering box brace build video. If you want to follow along and build your own, I have the link in the description that'll take you to my website where you'll get the PDF plans, the PDF to print out, that's a template, and the DXF, which is the CAD file that you can send off to a laser cutter if you have access to one. You'll also find any other free content we have for download on our website under the free stuff tab, and you'll find our products that we actually sell, like this glove box cup holder. You don't have to make this one, we make it for you and we ship it to your door. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.